Today we're talking about outlining your digital course, because here's the truth. Most online courses fail, not because the creator wasn't enough of an expert or because they weren't good enough on camera. They fail because the outline was confusing, bloated, or just plain boring. This is the difference between a course that ends up with crickets and one that actually helps people, keeps them engaged, and sells on autopilot because people rave about it to their friends and family. So most people actually overthink this part. They sit down with good intention and start dumping everything they know into a Google Doc, and then they just start filming with that shitty outline to guide them. But outlining is the single most important part of creating your course. Get this wrong and you'll end up with no sales, no referrals, and no customer results, and nobody wants that. So here's the main shift you need to have before you get started with your outline. You need to know that outlining your course isn't about organizing information, it's about designing a transformation. If your outline doesn't lead your students step by step from stuck to success, they'll drop off halfway through and they'll never recommend your course to anyone. And remember, a good course isn't a long course. Adding more videos just for the sake of giving the illusion of value will only overwhelm your students and dilute your results. You need to keep it tight, actionable, and structured around very clear wins. So that's why in this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to build an entire outline for your course that's clear, engaging, and easy to follow, even if you've never taught anything before in your life. So here's what we're going to cover in this video. First, how to define the before and after transformation that your course delivers. This is the foundation and the backbone of your entire course. Second, how to break that transformation into clear phases so that your modules build naturally without overwhelming your students. Third, how to sequence your lessons properly using a proven pattern to keep students hooked and engaged throughout your program. Then we'll talk about how to avoid the fluff trap and only include information that your students actually need. Fifth, we'll cover how to add simple tools like assignments, templates, workbooks, and checkpoints to increase your completion rates. And then lastly, I'll show you how to comprehension check your outline so that you know what's going to work for your students before you even hit record. So before we get started, if you're new here, I'm Nick Wharton. I'm one half of the coaching duo at Goats on the Road, and we help aspiring creators, side hustlers, and 9-to-5ers have an impact and build reliable remote income streams through selling digital products like courses. So if that's what you want more of, hit subscribe because we're coming out with a new video every single week to help you grow your audience, sell digital products, and have a real impact online. But today we're starting with the very first and most important step, the outline. All right, so let's get into the video. So the first thing you need to do before you even put pen to paper is to define the transformation. Before you outline a single module, you need to sit down and answer one question. What is my student's life like before the course, and what should it look like after? This is the transformation. It's the single most important thing in your entire course because it gives everything else a clear direction to build on. If you skip this part, your course is just going to end up feeling like a loose collection of tips or something that people could have just searched on YouTube or found in a Google result. But when you nail the transformation that your students should expect to have, every lesson becomes an important part of their journey to success. And remember, people want the result, but oftentimes what they want even more is the feeling they have when they get that result. So let's say you're teaching a course on indoor gardening. Your students before might be something like, I've killed every plant I've ever owned, I'm overwhelmed by all the info online, and I don't even know where to start. And then their after might look something like, I have a home full of thriving plants, I know how to care for each one, and I actually enjoy gardening now. So this is your transformation. It's not about plants, it's about confidence, peace, and joy in their space. Now you just need to write that out clearly. One sentence for the before and one sentence for the after. Then as you're outlining the course, keep asking yourself, like, what needs to change in their thinking? What kind of mindset shifts do they have to help them succeed? What skills do they need to build? What habits would help them to improve? And what small wins could you give them to make them feel like they're actually having mini transformations along the way? The outline builds itself once you know what the transformation looks like. All right, so next step in this video, let's talk about how to break the transformation into clear phases. Now that you've got the start and end points, your next job is to bridge the gap. This is where most people go wrong. They jump straight into listing topics like a lesson on soil or a lesson on watering and lessons on lighting. But that's completely overwhelming. Like, it's just a content dump and it's not part of a journey. So instead, what you have to do is break the transformation into 3 to 5 clear phases, each one getting the student closer to their final outcome. So let's go back to the indoor gardening course as an example. You might break it into phase 1, mindset prep. So you set expectations, bust myths, help students believe that they can do this. Phase 2 could be setup, like picking the right plants, choosing locations, and getting the right pots for the soil. And then phase 3 might be something like daily habits, watering, feeding, and lighting routines. And phase 4 might be growth, expanding their collection, repotting, and styling their home with plants, and so on and so forth. So each phase is basically a module. And inside each module, you'll eventually add 2 to 5 short and focused lessons. For now, just label the phases and ask yourself, does each one clearly build off the last? Is anything missing between start and success? Could a total beginner follow this and not feel lost? Once your phases or modules are solid, you're ready to move into sequencing, which is where you'll come up with individual lessons for your course. So yeah, next up, let's talk about how to sequence your lessons for momentum. Think of your course like a road trip. Each module is a stop along the way. And people always say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, right? Well, this couldn't be truer than with online courses, because your students don't want to just arrive at the result. They want the ride to feel smooth, exciting, and worth their time. And that's where sequencing comes in. So inside each phase or module, you'll probably have 2 to 5 short lessons like we talked about earlier. But the order of these lessons is what makes or breaks their experience. Here's how to get it right. For each module, you should have an introduction video that outlines exactly what they'll learn throughout all the lessons in that specific module. Similarly, in every single lesson, you should start the lesson by telling them what the video will be about, what you'll cover in the lesson, and what they'll know by the end. Then just start with a quick win. So this is particularly important for lessons near the beginning of the course and at the beginning of each module. Always lead with something that gives your students an early success. It just builds their trust and it builds their confidence as well. So in our gardening example, if module 2 is about setup, don't start with soil science or something complex. Start with 5 plants that are super easy to keep alive and where to put them for their best results. That gives your students instant momentum. They're learning and they're doing it the right way. Then move from simple to slightly more complex. Each lesson should build on the last, but avoid giant leaps. Like if lesson 1 is about choosing a plant, lesson 2 shouldn't suddenly be about pest control. Keep it linear, like step by step and logical. So in this case, lesson 2 would probably be about choosing the right plant soil for the plant and then how to pot it. Then it's important to end each module with a summary of what they've learned through all the lessons in that module. And remember, if a lesson has a lot of action steps in it, include an assignment for them to do so that they have a very clear action that they can take after they finish each lesson before moving on to the next. And at the very least, each module that has actionable steps throughout its lessons should have an assignment at the end of the module so that they're encouraged to go out and take action rather than just binge watching your course like they're watching Netflix or something. So the key to sequencing your lesson structure is pacing. Ask yourself, does this flow feel natural? Would this overwhelm a total beginner? And am I giving them a win before I give them a lecture? A great outline feels like a story. There's rising action, little victories, and a sense of progress at every turn, plus clear steps to take throughout. Alright, so now let's move on to another important topic for this video, how to avoid the fluff trap. This is probably the most common mistake I see with new course creators, and it kills even the best course ideas. So here's what happens. You sit down to outline and you think, I want to give them everything I know so that my course is going to have all the value possible. And that sounds really generous, but it's actually selfish, because more content doesn't equal better results, it just equals more overwhelm. A friend of mine always uses the dentist analogy for this, and I think it works perfectly. When you sit down in a dentist chair to have work done, you just want your problem to be fixed quickly and effectively. You wouldn't be happier if the dentist took extra time, added unnecessary steps, and prolonged your discomfort. Your students feel the exact same way. They want clarity, simplicity, and results, not unnecessary extras. So here's the fix. Only include what your students need to make progress and cut out the rest. Ask this about every single lesson idea. Does this lesson help take them one step further to the transformation that I promised in this course? If not, cut it out. If it's just a nice to know, make it a bonus video or a downloadable guide or something. But keep the core lessons lean, focused, and laser targeted. Instead of long lectures, think of lessons that are like 5 to 10 minutes max. Make sure that each one has one very clear action, and always have a clear topic or takeaway every single time. If the video starts to run into other topics, just make that a separate lesson. Less is more, especially when students are busy, distracted, or doubting themselves. So remember we talked about offering your students small wins before? The easiest way to do this is by just shortening your lessons. Every time they complete a lesson and they click that little check mark, that's a win in their minds. Alright, so now you've defined the transformation, you've broken it into phases, sequenced the journey, and trimmed out all the fluff. Now it's time to boost students' results and make sure that your outline actually works before you even spend an hour filming. So to do this, you need to add tools that increase the completion rate. Here's something that most people don't even realize. The average course completion rate is under 15%. That means that 85% of your students will drop off unless you build in small tools that keep them moving. So once your outline is done, you're not finished, you enhance it. Here are 3 simple tools you can layer in right inside your outline to boost completion and get your students better results. So first up, action steps. Like I said earlier, at the end of every lesson or module, add a clear, simple task. Nothing fancy, just something that makes the lesson practical. For example, pick one of the plants I recommend and go buy it today. Or create your watering schedule and post it where you can see it. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be doable for them. If you have a community area for your course, like a school community, a great way to increase your engagement in the community is to have an action step for them to do something and then ask them to go share that in school. This helps keep them accountable and gets other people in your community excited to take action as well. Alright, so another tool that you can use is templates or checklists. These reduce decision fatigue, especially for beginners. Let's say your students are overwhelmed by choosing plants. A top 5 low maintenance plants PDF can save them hours and they can refer to it while they're out shopping without having to refer back to your video lessons. Anytime you feel yourself thinking like, I could just give them the list for this, you probably should. Okay, so another tool is module recaps or progress milestones. At the end of each phase, pause and say, here's what you've done so far and here's what's next. This reinforces their journey and it keeps their motivation high. It could be a short summary video for the whole module or even just a list in your course platform. Either way, this matters. So these are just some of the tools that you can use that don't just help your students, they make your course feel premium without needing extra camera gear or editing. Okay, and quickly, let's just talk about checking over your outline before you're scripting and recording. This is what I call the comprehension check. So before you hit record, just do this quick test. Look at your outline and ask yourself, could someone else understand this outline without needing to explain it? So to do this, you can just follow these 3 simple steps. Step 1 is just read it out loud. If you stumble over your words or you feel unsure about a section, your students will too, so just smooth it out. Step 2, show it to someone in your target audience. Ask them, does this feel clear? Would this help you get from where you are now to where you want to be? And is there anything missing or did I add too much? Don't just ask for general feedback like, what do you think? Be really specific because you're looking for gaps here and confusion or overwhelm that your students might have. All right, and then step 3, check for red flags. Are any 2 modules overlapping too much? Are you jumping between topics instead of building it logically? And are you accidentally teaching everything you know instead of just what's needed for the specific transformation? If it's a topic, lesson, module, or even a sentence in your script that doesn't increase comprehension, then it increases confusion. Be picky, delete it. Once your outline passes this comprehension check, you're ready to start scripting and recording with confidence. You'll know exactly what to say, in what order, and how each lesson fits into the bigger journey. Alright, so let's recap. Now you know that outlining your course isn't about organizing information, it's about designing a journey. And when you do that right, everything else from filming to sales just becomes 10 times easier. In this video, we started by defining your before and after that your course delivers. This is your foundation. Then we broke that transformation into clear, logical phases or modules. Then you learned how to sequence your lessons for momentum and results. Then you went through and filtered out all the fluff. You added in some simple tools to increase the completion rates. And then finally, you did a comprehension check so you don't start filming and then having to make edits that might negatively impact the cohesiveness of your program overall. And look, if you're still watching, it means you're serious about making your course actually work for your students. So here's what you can do next after watching this video. First, just take 20 minutes today and sketch out your course transformation, just the before and after. Then map out your 3 to 5 big phases, and don't worry about getting it perfect, just get started. And if you want help outlining your course, I built a super powerful custom AI tool that helps you walk through this no matter what your niche is. It takes everything you learned in this video, plus everything I've learned from 8+ years of creating and selling courses, and walks you through step by step how to outline the perfect course. It's totally free to use. Just comment the word robot or the robot emoji down below and I'll send you access. Also, please like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Alright, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.